Hi everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how to get the brushes back into the brush holder assembly on your Briggs & Stratton 693551 starter motor after you've taken it apart and the brushes have popped out. So this is a 693551 starter. It's common on the overhead valve series Briggs & Stratton engines, and you might see it on anything from a 10.5 to a 18.5 horsepower engine. And you might have a couple of reasons to take your starter apart. I took mine apart because I was having a starting problem that I traced down to the starter, and I needed to look inside. And when I was done, I needed to put it back together, and I had to figure out how to get the brushes back into place. And that's what led me to make this video, because I found it a great way to do that. It's going to save you a lot of time and frustration. And the other reason you might need to take your starter apart is to service it, because it does need to be lubricated on occasion down here on the end where there's a bushing in the end cap here, and also needs to be lubricated down here where the armature goes through this mounting bracket. There's a bushing in there as well. And if you're really cool, you might just want to take it apart to look inside, which is fine by me. But either way, you're going to need to put it back together. And what happens after you take it apart is that the brushes here in the end cap are going to come out and do this to you. And your challenge now is going to be to get these 4 brushes that have popped out of this brush holder assembly back into their individual slots, all the way back, so that this opening is clear and so that those brushes fit over the commutator here. So you can see that's going to be quite a challenge, because you'd have to hold each one of these by hand somehow and hold them back while you're sliding this assembly back into place here in the case, and that is a royal pain in the butt. So I'll show you a way to do it quickly and easily. So this is the brush holder assembly. This will be the top. This is your battery positive lug, and this will be the bottom. And when you look at it from the bottom here, you can see that each one of the brushes has a slot that it rides in the brush holder assembly, and each slot also has a spring which pushes the brush up against the commutator. And that's also the same thing that pushed the brushes out when we lifted this assembly out. And I'm going to apologize in advance, because I have a habit of calling this 3 different things. Sometimes I call it the housing, sometimes I call it the holder, and sometimes I call it the brush holder assembly. So you just have to bear with me, because I don't know, when I'm talking about it I just go all over the place. So again, I apologize in advance for that. And for reference, this battery positive lug is what fits here in the housing, and it makes it very easy to line things up to get everything put back together later on. So I want to show you a couple of things here about the brushes and the assembly that are going to be handy to know. First of all, these brushes each have a knob on the end of them. You can see the knob right here, and that knob is what fits into the spring like that, and then both of those go together in the housing like this, and I'll show you how that rides back and forth. Let me get this brush out of the way. So I'll just put the knob in the spring like I showed you before, and then I'm going to slide the brush into the slot, and you can see that the brush rides back and forth in the slot like that. And to illustrate what I was saying earlier, in order to get this whole thing back together, you have to hold this brush back this far, and you can see that it's cleared this edge of the housing here, and you have to do that with all 4 of them to get them over the end of the commutator here, and that's not easy to do by hand. One other thing I want to mention here before I move on is that the brushes on my assembly here are very, very worn. So it makes it kind of challenging to demonstrate this technique that I'm going to show you, so I hope you'll bear with me there as well. In order to get the brushes back into the holder assembly here, I'm going to show you how to make a couple of clips. And what you're going to do is you're going to take those clips and you're going to poke them through these slots in the holder assembly, and those clips are going to hold the brushes back so that you can take the brush holder assembly and pop it back into place in the case here and get your starter back into service. It's going to make it really easy. So in order to make the two clips, what you're going to need are two ordinary paper clips, the large size paper clips. And it just so happens that these large clips are the perfect stiffness and diameter and length to make these clips that I'm going to show you. So to make the clips, the first thing that you have to do is take your paper clips and straighten them out. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut your first paper clip to 3 1/8 inch long to make this clip here. And then you're going to cut the other paper clip to 3 1/2 inches to make this clip here. So 2 paper clips straightened out, cut one at 3 1/8 and the other one at 3 1/2. Okay? Then once you have your 2 paper clips straightened out, you're going to take each one of them, and what you're going to do is shape it. You're going to bend it around the opening here in the housing like I've done. And it should be, you know, fairly close. It doesn't have to be super close, but you can see about how I have it here. And 2 other important things are that you want to have the ends of the clip even. And by keeping them even like that, it will make it easier to get the clip in and then for the clip to stay in once you get it in. So you can see that if you put it on a surface like this, the ends are about even. And it's the same thing with the bigger one here, just like that. So after you've bent the clip into place, the other thing that's important is that the ends should be wide enough so that they fit in these slots like this. And these are slots opposite each other. And you can see that the ends fit in those 2 slots and the ends fit in there like that. And so you want it pretty close. I would say if you're looking at this here, so it'd be, you know, around that area right there. A little bit of extra isn't going to hurt you, but if you have it too close, it makes it frustrating to get in, and if you have it too far, it's just going to be a real bear. So, you know, you can see how I have it. So it's just about like that. Okay? And you're going to do that with both clips. You can see how I've got that one, and you can see how I've got it shaped around the opening like that. Okay, so you've got 2 clips. This one's 3 1/8 inch long. This is 3 1/2 inches long. It's bent and shaped around the opening in the housing. The ends are even, and they're open wide enough to fit into these 2 slots at the same time. And that's it. So those are the 2 clips. It takes only a couple of minutes to make them. So now I'm going to show you how to use the 2 clips. So we're always going to start with the shorter clip first, and I'll show you why you need the 2 different length clips to begin with, and then I'll also show you why you always want to start with the shorter one first. So to get started, you can start with any brush from the bottom, and I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be using my left hand to hold the brush back. So I have a habit of starting over here on this side. So I'm going to pick this brush. The spring is in the slot, and I'm going to insert the knob on the end of the brush into the spring and then guide the brush into the slot. And now I'm just going to take that brush and push it back with my thumb, like that. And you can see that what I'm doing is pushing it back far enough to create a gap here between the housing and the end of the brush. So I'm just pushing that back with my thumb. Okay. Now I'm going to take the clip and put one end of it into that opening that I've created. And I'm just going to hold it down with my thumb like that. Okay. So by doing that, I'm keeping a little bit of tension on my clip. So now I'm just going to flip the assembly over, and I'm just going to push on that clip with my fingers from the bottom. Okay, I'm just doing that like that. Okay, and that's going to keep the pressure and the tension on the brush. So now I'm just going to go to the opposite side of the brush I just started with. Put my knob over the spring, and then push this back with my finger. So now I'm going to use my finger to hold this, flip this over, and then I'm just going to grab the end of the clip and guide it into that opening like that. And that's it. In just a matter of a few seconds, what you've done is you've immobilized these two brushes, and you've opened up that space, that all-important space here in the center, to get it over the commutator. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here you can see the clip is poking through the housing up against the brush and holding the brush back. And if you look at the other side, you can see the exact same thing. The clip comes up through the housing and pushes up against the brush. And that's that. And that's what it looks like. There's that gap that you normally would create. And here's what it looks like from the side. Okay. So now we're going to start with our other brush, or our other clip. It's the longer of the two, 3.5 inches long. And just like before, I'm going to pick any brush to start with. Put my spring in, put the knob in, guide the brush into the slot, and then hold it back with my thumb. Push it back far enough to create that gap. Take my clip, insert it into the opening, and then hold it down with my thumb. Then turn this over and put some pressure on the clip with my hand, with my finger. And then I'm going to go to the opposite brush, put it in its place, pinch it with this finger, and while I'm pinching it with this finger, I'm going to flip it over and just grab the end of that clip and guide it into that space, like that. And there you go. In what, about 1 minute, you have done what I've watched on YouTube and read about. It takes people half an hour to an hour, and some people can't even do it. It's that difficult to get these all back in place by hand, the way you just saw me do in about a minute. So I'll show you what it looks like here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you flip it over, here's why you need the clips at 3.5 and 3 1/8. One has to fit over the other, and then this one has to be long enough to fit over the end of the armature here when you put it all back together. So there's what it looks like. Okay, so now here's the beautiful part of this whole thing. Time to put it all back together. So now you're just going to take your battery positive lug and line it up with the opening in the case. Then you're just going to take your brush assembly like this, and you're just going to slowly wiggle it down and push it down like that. And then once it's fully seated, like that, you're just going to take your clips out like this. And that's it. I have to tell you that if you try to do it manually by holding all these brushes back, you're going to have fits and you're going to want to smash this thing to bits. But with these clips, I've just shown you that you can do it in a matter of a couple of minutes. So you can take your starter apart and put it back together anytime you want to without having to worry about struggling with getting those brushes back in place. I have seen some people who used a different technique. What they did was they took wires or sticks this guy used, and he put a stick in each one of the brush openings, and he held all the sticks together, and then somehow he managed to push the brush holder assembly back in place. He doesn't show you how he does it, and I can imagine why, because it's probably pretty difficult to do and difficult to show. And then I have seen another guy who shows you how to rebuild the starter, or not so much rebuild it, but service it. And he shows these clips, or clips like this, in the brush holder assembly, although it is a different brush holder assembly. But he doesn't show you how to make the clips or how to use them. So I couldn't find a single other video on YouTube that showed you how to do anything like this, so I thought it would be worthwhile for me to do it for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time, demonstrate the procedure without narrating it, just for those of you who'd like to see it again. And hopefully, you know, maybe seeing me do it a second time will help. So there's the dreaded moment where they all pop out. Okay, so there you go. That's all it takes. After you get everything put back together, give your armature a spin, make sure that all the brushes are moving freely and everything looks good. You didn't forget to put any springs back. Put a bit of lubricant on your end cap, line everything up, and go out there and mow your lawn. I hope this helps you, and if you have any comments on how to make it better, or ideas that you've had that other people can use as well, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, thanks for watching.